Good evening. Welcome to Notre Dame Admissions Live. This evening, we're with the College of Arts and Letters. Congratulations to all you admitted students and who are joining us this evening. We're really eager to tell you all about the college. As our conversation unfolds tonight, we encourage you to submit questions via chat. And our chat moderator is Kate, and you'll be able to see her, and she'll kind of look through the questions and send them to us. So let's start with some introductions. First of all, my name is Mary Flannery, and I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Studies in the College of Arts and Letters. And I am a member of the economics faculty as well. One somewhat fun fact is that I'm also an alum of Notre Dame. I was in the class of 1978, third class of women. So I have lots of enthusiasm for Notre Dame and for the College of Arts and Letters as well. So I'm hoping to share that with you tonight. Let me turn to our student panelists as well, and I'll let them introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about what they're doing, where they're from, what their interests are, and then we'll get into a little general presentation about arts and letters. So let's start with Hattie.
Hi, my name is Hattie. I am from Houston, Texas, and I am a senior majoring in Spanish and supplemental major in pre-health studies. On campus, when I used to live on campus, I was in Lyons. This year, I'm off campus. And when I graduate, I'm taking a gap year and then hoping to go to medical school after that.
Thank you. John?
Hi, my name is John Babbo. I'm a senior as well, originally from Oak Park, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. On campus, I'm majoring in the program of liberal studies, which is a great books major. It's awesome. And then I have minors in business economics, constitutional studies, and data science. And then after college, I'm going to be working at a private equity firm in Boston.
Great, thank you. So we're going to start by sharing a brief presentation, but we're going to dedicate as I mentioned before, the majority of this time to your questions. So get them ready. Thanks to those of you who submitted questions previously. As I mentioned already, you can submit them at any point during the presentation here. In arts and letters, we talk a lot about what is the key to success? What is the core of an arts and letters curriculum? And it really boils down to a short phrase: study what you love. And I have served, when I was in economics before I moved into the dean's office, I was director of undergraduate studies. I must have said that, thousands of times, honestly. If you study what you love, what you're interested in, it is going to lead to success. You're going to be happy. You're going to be wanting to work hard. You'll be excited. And of course, that's what we want to see. So what could you love? Well, you already heard some wide examples. Just to toss some others out, it could be a language, it could be Arabic, it could be something as social science, like I studied economics, just a wide range of possibilities. We won't go through all the majors or we'd use up all the time. There's 20 of them. There's supplemental majors, which are kind of modified, shorter majors. And then there's also lots of minors, as you heard from our students here. So let me move on to talk a little bit about what can you expect from arts and letters. We've got 4 core strengths, I would say. We have excellent advising. We have many research opportunities. We have an international focus and also career support. So let me just go through each of those a little bit just to give you an idea. And if there's certain parts of that you want to ask more questions about, feel free. So it's easy for me to say excellent advising since I was an advisor in economics, and then the advising office is part of the undergraduate studies. But despite my obvious interest in saying it's excellent, we know that to be true. Part of Notre Dame's message in arts and letters especially is that you get individual attention. The part of the study what you love, that's a difficult question. A lot of people aren't exactly sure what they love yet. And so you have trained people to kind of help you guide and discern and think, am I interested in Arabic? How do I find that? We have a professional staff, caring, knowledgeable, that can help you with that. There's also quite a few research opportunities. Initially, people, when they think about research, they think about being in a lab with some test tubes or maybe doing some kind of analysis for engineering, looking at different kinds of loads and weights and things like that. And when you think about arts and letters, what exactly is that? What kind of research is that? Again, so many different opportunities. And I just this week was working on some recommendation letters for students that were getting grants through the Nanovic Foundation to do study in Europe. Very different. One is studying kind of a theology thing in Ireland. Another was studying educational system in Scandinavia. So lots of opportunities, faculty support, monetary support, and support just figuring out what you might want to be involved with. The international focus is one of our dean's big priorities, and that takes a couple different kind of paths. One is we have a big emphasis on studying languages. In fact, next week is the Foreign Language Week, and there's going to be all kinds of food and different activities, and just to expose the entire university to the languages that are taught here and the influence that they have. The other thing that you can do through arts and letters, and over 70% of our students do this, is study abroad. And that's lots of scaffolding on that, getting you ready to go abroad, good programs abroad. Happy to talk about that more if there's interest. The last one I want to talk about, which is of course important, I'm sure to you admitted students, but maybe more to admitted students' parents, is what kind of career support there is. And we've undertaken a very careful, directed push to support our arts and letters students in their career searches. And that takes the form of a new program that's called Beyond the Dome. And Beyond the Dome has a number of different facets, but just to give you an idea, this semester we're partnering with McKinsey to provide students with all the skills that they need to be good candidates for consulting. So that just gives you an idea. We're spending a lot of time on that. Employers are looking for arts and letters students. They want people who can write, and they want people who can think clearly and communicate well. And we're just making it easier for them to find our students. So this next slide is really just evidence that it's working. And what we're also hoping is that, yes, 97% of our majors find jobs within 6 months of graduation, but that the process was actually a fun one, not a big problem or stressful one. And that's what the Beyond the Dome program is really geared for. So that's a rundown quickly of our priorities and our emphasis. And like I said, we'll be able to dive deeper into all those areas as we look at your questions. I'm looking in the chat here. One of the first questions is regarding this what we call the SMAC minor. Are you guys familiar with that at all? It's the sports, media, and culture minor.
Sounds cool.
And in fact, right now we're missing a very interesting talk.
GM of the Bears.
Yeah. And and that's a good example back to when we're talking about all the different majors, supplementary majors, and minors. There's lots of combinations that you can do as a arts and letters student. That sports, media, and culture is for people who obviously are interested in sports, maybe working for a sports team or some kind of maybe a company that provides sports equipment or something like that. But it's also quite a cultural and scholarly approach about how important sports is in our culture. What does it mean? That's just a good example of something that you might not really think that you would be doing, adding a major like that. So I mentioned earlier the tagline, study what you love. So let me give our students here an opportunity to talk about kind of what they love and hopefully what their majors are, and they're the same. And they can tell us how they kind of got to that place. So do you want to start, Hardy?
Yeah.
Start, Hattie.
Yeah. So I am a Spanish major primarily, and then I have my pre-health supplemental major. But I chose to major in Spanish because coming out of high school, I took a lot of Spanish classes, and I really started to fall in love with the language. One of my priorities coming into college was becoming fluent in Spanish and being able to, communicate and work with people and understand people who are very different than myself. So I chose the Spanish major, and then I wanted to go to med school and do something, become a physician who also speaks Spanish. And so I paired those two together, and it's really something you can only do in the College of Arts and Letters. I have all of my Spanish classes where I'm like speaking Spanish, reading things in Spanish, and then I go over to Jordan and I'm like taking notes for Cell Bio and doing flashcards. So it's really great to be able to use both sides of my brain and two things that I love and I'm studying. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah. John, how about you?
Good,
you apparently love a lot of things. You had a lot of minors. And so why don't you tell us how you got to that?
Yeah. It's actually something I'm pretty passionate about because I think if you're going to go to a university, the point of a university is to learn. It's not job training. It's to really study and get an amazing education and learn for the sake of learning. What happens then when you study what you love is you're really passionate about it. You try super hard in your classes. You get really good grades. And then you're able to get really good jobs and you learn all these skills. So my major is the program of liberal studies. It's amazing. It's a great books major. In 4 years, you get to read the greatest books ever written in the tradition of Western thought. And it's all seminar classes, like 12 to 15 people. It's all writing and oral exams. And despite having this major that's super booky and kind of nerdy, I was able to build up skills of analysis and how to think and how to write and how to analyze, and then apply that to a business setting, which I'm very passionate in. And there's all these amazing extracurricular opportunities. And they may not tell you this, but the real way you learn and the way you recruit for these finance jobs, which is what I was doing, is through extracurriculars. So I was able to study an amazing major, 3 amazing minors, and still get a job. And when you get on the job, the skills that really matter are the ability to analyze and write and think and communicate. It's not whether you know the basics of finance, because they teach you that on the job. So I think studying what you love is super important. And it's why you would want to go to an amazing school like Notre Dame, is to actually learn, not just job training.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And that definitely is a message that we try to get across, including in the programs that we have for career help. The first question is kind of, why are you studying what you're studying, and not, this is what you need to do to get this job, but you're really interested in this and you're studying this. How can we help you find something that you're going to be able to use that and continue in that field? So one one thing I'd like to talk a little bit about, I mentioned the research and what kind of research you can do. We have your academics advisors would help you with that, professors and so forth. But Hattie, have you done research with as part of your health? There was a question when someone was kind of interested in hearing about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I've done two separate research projects. The first one I'll talk about was when I was studying abroad in Puebla, Mexico. I had the crazy opportunity to join a research team, a research project down there that studied the toxicology and health status of Guatemalan howler monkeys. So we traveled like 12 hours by bus to the border of Mexico and Guatemala, and I was drawing blood from like the tail vein of live wild howler monkeys, and got to have that experience on site and gathering real like data points from real live monkeys. And then we would take it back to the lab and the rest of the semester be analyzing the samples that we collected. So that was an incredible, amazing experience that I was so grateful for, and I could talk about for hours and hours. It was crazy. And then this past year as a senior, I'm doing a senior thesis project. So it's kind of, I'm able to do my own research and focus on a topic that I love. And this research that I'm doing now is obviously very different from drawing blood from the tail of a monkey. It's more, going through archives and reading books and kind of going through interviews for different people. So yeah, in arts and letters, I've been able to do both a very sciencey based research and then also more booky based research.
What's the topic of your bookie based one?
It's how religion affects the Central American migrants' journey from their home countries to the U.S.
Whoa.
Oh,
So,
yeah, very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Mhm.
So, John, I know as part of the program for liberal studies that you write a thesis,
Mhm.
and do you want to share a little bit about that? And then if you have any other research opportunities that you've had that you'd like to talk about, that'd be great too.
Yeah, so for my major, everyone has to write a senior thesis. It's kind of a lot of work.
It is.
Mine is on what is the role of economics in like the ancient constitutionalism and like the ancient or classical constitutionalism, and so it's looking at like Aristotle and Aquinas and their vision of the city, and they had a very different form of constitutionalism that they believed in versus like Hobbes and Machiavelli, but they don't have a very fleshed out sense of economics. So it's kind of seeing like what type of economic system would accord with the principles that they believed would, their ideal polis or the city. That's a great group for the city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds ambitious, but quite interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah. How did you come to that topic?
Well, I'm interested. I love political theory, so the constitutional studies
Mhm.
minor, and then I'm also in something called the Tocqueville Fellows at Notre Dame. It's through the Center for Citizenship and Constitutional Studies. It's got a mouthful. It's an amazing. They bring these super big speakers to campus, and then through that, I get to you get to talk to them. You participate in these colloquiums, which is like it's like a 2-day thing. So I had one on Tocqueville and Nietzsche, which is like with colloquium that I did, and I did one on the liberal arts education and like the origins of that. So I'm really interested in like questions of political theory, but also like economics and finance and capitalism and these questions. So kind of trying to like merge the two interests in one.
Great, thanks. So let me turn to something a little more mundane, let me say, and talk about double majors and minors. And so one of the questions that was submitted previously was, what are the pros and cons of double majoring? And so that we've got examples of double majors, minors, et cetera. So let me just say briefly, it is a way of exposing yourself to different subject matters in an organized way. That sometimes it's hard to just take a class here and a class there, and you can tell when you're talking that you are pulling together all these different. It sounds like a long list of minors and your major, but it all fits together, and you've been exposed to a lot of different things, and it's more of one theme than it might appear initially. And that's a lot of the double majors are like that, complements on a particular topic. one particularly common double major is a language. So you want to talk a little bit more about how your two majors work together?
Yeah.
Talked about them a little bit separately, but how do they work together?
Yeah. So I think obviously my Spanish and my pre-health major on the surface seem very different, and they use very different sides of the brain. But I think what's really important, obviously in my pre-health major, all of the bio and the chems and orgo and all of those classes are really important. But I think a really important aspect of aspiring physicians or people who are aspiring to work in the medical field is being able to communicate with people and being able to understand a culture that is not your own. And so I think that's really where my Spanish major comes in, is we analyze all of these readings and all of, these works of art from, Spain and also from Central America. And so being able to have that perspective and then wanting to pursue medical school and wanting to become a physician, I think will definitely benefit me, and being able to pull all of those things together. And yeah, I think it's boils down to understanding people who are different from yourself. And I think that's vital in medicine.
Yeah, and everywhere, but
Yes.
especially in medicine, that'll come in really handy. So thanks on that.
Yeah.
One other question that came in has to do with opportunities for seminar classes that are reading and writing intensive. And I promise I did not put this question in myself, but if it weren't already there, I would have made it up, because that, of course, is an incredible core of an arts and letters education, is the ability to read carefully, to be able to synthesize materials, extract a theme like the constitutionalism, et cetera. But that's great if you can do that. But if you can't communicate it to other people, it's not so great either. So the writing is very important, oral presentations as well. So one of the distinguishing features of the Arts and Letters degree is a seminar that's called the College Seminar. And it's a variety of different topics. You take it your sophomore year, and it actually has a primary focus on oral presentation. So, and it depends on the instructor and the topic, but it might be more debate oriented or giving presentations or having discussions in class, but it's, again, oral presentation. All Notre Dame students also take something called University Seminar as a first year, and that's a writing-based class where you have somebody from maybe a history department, and you do readings and you discuss, but you also write and get feedback on your writing. We have, as all universities do, a writing and rhetoric program that helps students work on their writing. And then we also have writing across the disciplines, as it's called. So in economics, for example, every student had to take a writing intensive class in economics. And generally what those were you would do some kind of statistical analysis and then have to write up those results and maybe put them in the context of a policy question or something like that. But again, you're using the skills that you have from economics, but you have to write about them. So let's start with you, John, since PLS is very writing intensive. Kind of how has that experience been? How do you feel you've maybe improved as a writer? Like, what are some of the things that have helped you with that?
Yeah, it's funny. I came into Notre Dame thinking like I was a pretty good writer in high school. Like if you try hard on an essay, you get a good grade on it. And then I came to Notre Dame and was getting like bad grades on my papers, and it was like, wow, they're really, really good teachers. And my major, it's all about writing and reading and discussion. And so I think like I look back on my freshman year papers, and now I'm like, wow, it's pretty cool to see the difference in my ability to write and come up with theses super fast now. And yeah, it's like one of the best skills that I've learned, and hopefully I can like continue to put that to use throughout the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is true. It is one of the harder things to teach, writing to, first year students, especially because okay, we all think we can write great. And it's hard to even realize until you start looking at other examples. Now, I'm guessing your curriculum wasn't as writing intensive, but you would have taken a university seminar,
Yeah.
college seminar. What were some of the experiences you had with communication skills?
Yeah. So in my major it is a pretty writing intensive, but it's all writing in Spanish. So that was definitely a skill that I had to develop, was how to write, more than like 3 sentences in Spanish. And kind of similar to John, looking back on freshman year, the papers that I turned out, I was like, looking at them now, I'm like, oh gosh, a lot of growth has happened over the 4 years. Also just as I improve in the language too. But with my college seminar, I was terrified of it because I was terrified of public speaking, and I knew we had to have this big, like 15-minute presentation at the end of the course. But the professors made it, an easy skill to learn. They kind of, chopped it up and made it less intimidating, and we practiced, maybe one day just working on how to introduce yourself and like, I don't know. I think the professors do a really good job, and in the college seminar and the university seminar classes, they're smaller classes, they're seminars, and so you can have that one-on-one time with professors. And if you're feeling, nervous about something, like I was for this huge presentation, they like can calm your nerves down, And so I think really bonding with professors and getting feedback from them in those seminar classes was also really crucial in growing my writing and speaking skills.
The small classes is pretty incredible. The relationships you're able to develop with your teachers is awesome, and you get to talk a lot when the classes are small, and that's something very different. I think for arts and letters are those seminar style classes, and they're such a great learning experience.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, and let me just say, I think you're good examples of the success of those programs, because you're doing really well with your communication oral skills right now. So I'm pretty proud of my arts and letters students right now. So let me go to a couple other questions. One student is asking if Notre Dame has a pre-law program, which the answer to that is no. There's not a formal pre-law program, although I'm sure John's heard many jokes about PLS being pre-law. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit? Are there a lot of students that are headed toward law school in PLS? Or, what do you hear about that?
Yeah, so the joke, Program of Liberal Studies, PLS, people say it's called probably law school. Is the joke major. But yeah, most of my friends from PLS are going to law school. It's a great major because it teaches you those skills of how to read and gives you a very wide base for understanding the origins of law and goes into it. And they're all going to amazing law schools. So if you want to do law, I'd suggest PLS.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me put a plug in for economics, which is also a big major for pre-law, that especially if people are interested in corporate law and that sort of thing. So you can get information about applying to law school. What do you need to do to prepare yourself for law school? Back to our great advising staff. They would be able to give you all that information. There's like a moot court club and other extracurricular activities that would help you in your journey to law school. So in law school, that's what law schools want, really. They don't want you to just be focused only on this preparation for law school. They want you to get a wide variety of different topics, again, be able to write and communicate about them. And then you'll learn the law part later. They want you to get those basic skills in preparation. So that's good. Another question here is a question about the Global Engagement Certificate. And this is somebody that's done their research. I know they've been on the website already and looked at all the different things that Arts and Letters has to offer. Basically, what it is, it's run through a center that we have, that's the Center for the Study of Cultures and Languages, or Languages and Cultures. Let me get those letters in the right order. And it's a kind of a way to show that you've been diving deeply into learning about international issues. So you get credit for different languages that you've learned, maybe classes that are globally oriented, study abroad experiences, lectures. There's a variety of different ways that you can accumulate the points to get the certificate. So doesn't show up on your transcript or anything like that, but it's a way to be intentional about making sure that you're immersing yourself in the global world that we live in. And so I encourage people that are interested in languages and political science, international econ, all these areas it's just a roadmap to make sure you've really dive deeply into lots of aspects. So let's see, what else? What other questions are there? Let me come back to your pre-health. One of the programs that a lot of students that are interested in pre-professional health is neuroscience. And there's two different programs at Notre Dame, one in the College of Arts and Letters, and then one in the College of Science. So there's often many questions about what are the differences between those two. And I won't go into all of them right now, certainly, and I'll mention this again at the end. You're welcome to email me. We can talk about it in more detail later. But let me just say that the arts and letters doesn't skimp at all on the science side of it. It's just a different complement to that. But we have great success in our arts and letters students from neuroscience and other sciences too, getting into med school. They're able to, on the neuroscience side, do a lot of research in the psychology department in particular. So the difference is kind of what is the blanket or the surrounding curriculum. The basic curriculum of the neuroscience is going to be the same. But in arts and letters, you're also going to be taking languages and other maybe some literature courses, part of our college core. And in the science side, you might be going more deeply into some other science topics, but the neuroscience will be basically the same. So in thinking back to your experiences, both of you, what have been some of your favorite classes that you took? You've been giving us good, enthusiastic responses about your majors and minors, but what was your favorite class that you took?
I'm actually, this isn't scripted. I'm going to say my college seminar class, College of Arts and Letters requirement. Because this class was, even though it was during COVID, it was a community-based learning class. And so through the class, each student partnered with a specific organization in South Bend, a specific charity organization in South Bend. And we helped them, volunteered with them. It was virtual, but I still got a lot out of the experience and worked on this permanent supportive housing research project with Amani Unidad, which is an organization here in South Bend. And so I loved that class, even though there was the scary presentation at the end. I loved being able to connect with the South Bend community, because it's not, it's kind of a hard thing to do, to go out into South Bend, because there is a lot going on campus. So I love that opportunity to learn more about the organizations in South Bend, and then have it be a part of my class discussion and my seminar and my eventual presentation at the end of that class. So I really liked that class.
Oh, great, thank you. How about you, John?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I really like political theory, and through my constitutional studies minor, I'm taking a really cool class this semester, and it's actually a 2-semester class. So it's called Cortex and Constitutionalism, and over 2 semesters, there's 2 different teachers. We're trying to read the Cortex and Constitutionalism, but it's really fun, because everyone in the class this semester, we also took all the class together last semester. And so the discussion gets to start at such a high level because we all have the same prior information. So when we're reading Hobbes, we've all read everything kind of before that, and we don't need to kind of hash that out. We can start up here. So that's an amazing class I'm taking right now, and I like the subject matter, so that helps. But it's really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's great. Thank you. They're two kind of really different.
I know. Super, very different.
So,
yeah, find some political philosophy.
Good panel here. But yeah, that's one of those things that you do look back, many years from now, you'll be thinking about these classes and what they gave to you for sure, but also just the community and the, that kind of experience for each one. So let's talk a little bit about theses. You mentioned a thesis that was part of the program of liberal studies, but I'm guessing you did not do a thesis, or did you?
I am.
Oh, that's right. We talked about it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm thinking too much on the health side. So
Yeah.
that is something that we really encourage in arts and letters, is to do a thesis, to do a senior research project, and they can range from all different kinds of research methods, research approaches, and about 60% of our students do senior theses. Most majors have a track, which is an honors track that you have to do an honors thesis. So it's like a different kind of level of research. And it's part of the culture of arts and letters is to kind of aspire toward that. And in some cases, it's just not practical, do whatever your major is and what other things you're doing to devote that time in your senior year doesn't work out. But we definitely do encourage that and try to give you advice and help as you're going along with that. So let's see, what other questions did we have coming in from before? So one question that comes up is about switching colleges, like how does that work? And certainly within reason, in your first year, there's an opportunity to discern that you're interested in other topics. That being said, certain fields like engineering, that's really different. And, if after a year you think, oh, I want to get into engineering, that's going to be difficult to do and still graduate at the same time. But certainly lots of students transfer into arts and letters after they realize like how awesome it is. And there's ample opportunity and flexibility. There's some restrictions. For example, there's a limited number of students in Mendoza. In response to that, Arts and Letters has come up with a number of different programs to help students that are interested in business, but also interested in arts and letters subjects. So to that end, John has a minor in the business economics. So how did you kind of come to that, and how did that fit in with your plans?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to do business. I wanted to do business, but I wanted to do what I loved. And what I was really interested in was the PLS and Program of Liberal Studies, but I still wanted to get a good job and get exposure to these business concepts. So I did the business economics minor. You take finance, accounting, stats. I took an econ class, Professor Flannery, and it gives you a great basis point. You get to take those classes in the business school, and it's a great minor if you want to get exposure to kind of those hard skills you need to learn.
Mm-hmm. And relatedly, now we've started a new program called the Sheedy Family Program, which is, I describe it as a program for students with 1 foot in business and 1 foot in arts and letters. And so if you're interested in arts and letters, but you have kind of also some inkling that the business track or business might be where your career lies, definitely check that out. So to summarize, I'm going to give the students another opportunity to give you some of their wisdom, and maybe I'll give you an opportunity to give your advice, like when you're thinking back to when you were discerning about coming to Notre Dame or learning about Notre Dame, you're already admitted. What do you wish somebody told you?
I would say I wish someone told me that, I guess my mom did tell me this, that I should just, I expressed that I wanted to become fluent in Spanish and I wanted to keep studying Spanish. So she said, well, just major in it. But I wanted to go to med school. And so I wasn't sure if I could make that work. So I think my advice would be, if you know that you want to study something and you're really interested in it, just like jump in, major in it, come to arts and letters, and you'll be okay and it'll all work out.
Good. How about you, John?
First of all, go to Notre Dame. Going to Notre Dame is the best decision I've ever made in my life, and it's such an amazing school.
Yeah.
It's such a good, like, the culture. There's football games and there's also academics. It's amazing. I don't think there's any other school that has that same combination in the country. In terms of like coming into Notre Dame, because you're all coming to Notre Dame now, I think regardless of what you think you maybe want to do after college, really do try to find like what most interests you, because that's going to best serve you. You're going to do best in those classes, even if it's kind of a weird major or something you think like, this is weird. Do it. If you really like it, you're going to do best in those classes, and it's going to be a virtuous cycle where you're going to end up getting to where you go regardless.
So I thought I might mention what some of those weird majors might be, but I think maybe I thought better of that. But the point's well taken, that there's just a wide range of different things. And I can remember, as this isn't weird, but different, early on with the business econ minor, there was somebody that was majoring in Latin and doing the business econ minor, and then went to work for a video game company who, because with the Latin, knew all the different mythology and Greek and Roman stories. And it's like, wow, you never would have predicted that someone with that combination was going to end up with a job like that. So that just gives you an idea. You don't know. As we say, study everything, do anything. That's a good example of that. So thank you very much for coming this evening. We've I think you probably have enjoyed ourselves. It's been fun. And again, follow up with us if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.